Before the story begins, I'd like to ask you to subscribe and like. This will help the channel grow. Whispers Beneath Black Hollow, a detective mystery story. They called it Black Hollow, a forgotten mining town in northern Maine, where fog never lifted and the sound of the river carried through the night like a whisper. Detective Elias Monroe hadn't meant to come here. He was on his way to Portland when his car broke down by the roadside, right beneath a faded sign, asterisk. Welcome to Black Hollow. Founded 1874. Star. No one should have been there. Yet, in the gas station by the hill, a woman stood behind the counter, pale as candle wax, her eyes distant. "You're the detective, aren't you?" she said softly. "We've been waiting." Monroe frowned. "Waiting for what?" She handed him a sealed envelope. Inside was a single Polaroid, a photo of a missing boy. Date stamped, October 23, 1983. The boy's name, David Lang. But the case was from 40 years ago. "You should talk to Father Marin," the woman whispered. "He remembers what they tried to bury." The church stood at the edge of town, crooked and gray. Inside, Father Marin was lighting candles, his hands trembling. When Monroe showed him the photo, the priest's face drained of color. "That's not possible," he murmured. "David never aged a day, because he never left." As the detective looked closer at the Polaroid, his own reflection seemed to ripple across the image. Behind the boy, in the shadows, there was someone else, a tall man in a coat, staring directly at the camera. Father Marin led Monroe to the outskirts, where the old Langridge mine stood, boarded up, its wooden beams sagging from years of decay. "This is where it began," said the priest. "David's father worked here. The night he vanished, the mine lights turned on by themselves, and no one went near it again." Monroe descended into the shaft with his flashlight cutting through the dark. The air grew colder the deeper he went. Somewhere in the distance, water dripped rhythmically, like a heartbeat. He found an old metal lunchbox, half buried in dust. Inside were 3 small bones wrapped in a newspaper dated 1983. Suddenly, a radio crackled from the surface, his walkie, though no one was there to speak. "Help me!" a child's voice whispered through the static. The beam of his flashlight flickered. On the wall, words appeared in faint chalk, asterisk. "He never left the mine." Star. The sound of footsteps echoed behind him, soft, hesitant. He turned, but the tunnel was empty. Then his light caught something, a figure standing deep in the dark, small and still. "David?" Monroe's voice broke the silence. The boy turned his head slightly, but his eyes were hollow, glassy. Not alive. The light died. The tunnel went silent. When Monroe finally stumbled back to the surface, dawn was breaking, and the Polaroid in his pocket had changed. Now the boy's eyes glowed faintly, and a name was scrawled across the bottom in fresh ink. Asterisk. "He remembers you." Asterisk. The Black River cut through the town like a scar. Locals said the water carried voices, miners who never came home. Monroe, exhausted and sleepless, traced the riverbank at dawn. He saw something caught in the reeds, a rosary, tangled with a locket. Inside the locket was a photo of the same woman from the gas station. When he returned to confront her, the shop was empty. Dust everywhere. No footprints. Yet the counterbell still chimed when he stepped in, as if she'd just been there. On the wall behind the register, a calendar from 1983 hung untouched. Monroe's hand shook as he flipped through the pages, each month circled in red ink, ending with October. Then, a car door slammed outside. He rushed out, but the street was empty except for tire marks leading to the church. Inside, Father Marin lay motionless by the altar, his eyes open, staring at the crucifix. On his palm, drawn in black ink, was the symbol of the mine company, the same found on the old helmets. Pinned to his robe was another Polaroid. This time of Monroe himself, standing in the woods, looking directly at the camera. Someone was watching, and whoever they were, they knew him. Monroe spent the night in the old motel on Ridge Street. Sleep didn't come. He kept staring at the Polaroid, his own face looking back at him, older, haunted. He took the photo to the town archives in the morning. Inside, a retired clerk named Mrs. Kellerman recognized the woman from the locket.
"She was Evelyn Lang,"
she said softly.
"David's mother. She vanished after the mine closed. They said she drowned herself in the Black River, but they never found her body."
As Monroe flipped through old newspapers, one headline froze him. Asterisk.
Detective Elias Monroe leads search for missing boy, October 1983.
Star. His hands went cold. That couldn't be right. He wasn't even born then. But there he was, in the photo, same face, same eyes. Standing beside Father Marin. Suddenly, the lights flickered. Mrs. Kellerman was gone. The archive door shut with a heavy slam, and the radio on the desk hissed to life. A voice came through. The same woman.
"You promised to bring him back,"
Monroe whispered.
"Evelyn?"
Silence. Then, faintly,
"You're running out of time."
The priest's keys still hung from his coat in the morgue. Monroe took them, following his intuition back to the church basement. There he found a locked iron door marked Room 9. Inside, a hidden chamber. Desks, film reels, medical files. And a single chair in the center with leather straps. Tapes labeled Project Hollow Memory. He played one. Static, then voices.
Subject 12, Evelyn Lang. Memory extraction sequence commencing. And Subject 13, Elias Monroe.
His blood froze. A younger version of his voice followed on tape.
"If this fails, they'll erase everything,
even her."
The film reel flickered on the wall, grainy footage of Evelyn and a small boy inside the mine, light flooding their faces. Then screams. Then silence. The truth hit him. He had been there. He wasn't a detective at all. He was part of the experiment, and he'd forgotten everything. A cold wind rushed through the chamber, scattering papers. On the far wall, written in chalk, a final message, asterisk.
To remember is to return.
Asterisk.
Monroe stood again at the mine's entrance, fog curling around his feet. He carried the last tape with him, his mother's locket in his hand. When he stepped inside, the tunnel lights flickered on, one by one. A faint humming filled the air, familiar and mournful. He reached the chamber where he'd found the bones. But now the walls pulsed faintly, like breathing. And in the center, Evelyn stood. Pale, radiant, eyes shining like silver.
"Mom,"
he whispered.
"You were never meant to forget,"
she said.
"They used our memories to feed the hollow, to keep it alive. You shut it down once.
You must do it again."
Tears filled his eyes.
"If I do, what happens to you?"
She smiled sadly.
"Then I can finally rest."
The mine trembled as he smashed the control panel, sparks flooding the dark. Evelyn reached for him, fading into light.
"Remember me, Elias?"
The explosion echoed through the valley. When rescuers arrived, the mine was sealed, silent. But in the morning fog, a single Polaroid lay by the entrance, of a woman and her son smiling. Both faces clear now,